Hello everyone, and welcome to the channel. Before we dive into today's story, we just wanted to take a quick second to say thank you all for watching. We truly appreciate your support. If you're new here, please consider subscribing, it's totally free, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest stories. Now, with all that said, let's jump straight into the story.
The rusted iron gates groaned in protest as Ava wrestled them open. Beyond lay the overgrown access road leading to the abandoned Crestwood Mall, a concrete husk swallowed by the relentless advance of nature. Twisted saplings clawed at the cracked asphalt, and a thick blanket of leaves muffled their footsteps. "Are you sure about this, Ava?" Noah asked, his voice laced with a familiar blend of concern and exasperation. He adjusted his glasses, peering into the shadows that clung to the skeletal remains of the mall. "The place is practically falling apart, and that haunted wilderness angle feels a bit contrived even for you." Ava, brimming with her usual infectious energy, ignored him. Her eyes, bright with anticipation, scanned the scene. "Contrived? Noah, darling, this is prime content. For my YouTube channel, think about it, an abandoned mall swallowed by the woods, rumored to be built on an old Native American burial ground. The perfect storm of spooky." She grinned, adjusting the camera mounted on her head. "Welcome back to Urban Legends Uncovered, viewers. Today we're braving the haunted wilderness surrounding Crestwood Mall. Let's see what secrets this place has to share." Mara, trailing behind them, shivered despite the mild autumn air. She clutched her worn backpack tightly, her gaze darting nervously between the looming trees and the shadowed recesses of the mall. "I still don't understand why we couldn't just go to that haunted house you found online," she mumbled, her voice barely audible. Ava placed a reassuring hand on Mara's shoulder. "Don't worry, sweetie. It'll be fun. Think of the content we'll get. Besides," she lowered her voice conspiratorially, "this place has a real history, real energy. You can feel it, can't you?" Noah snorted. "I feel a draft and the overwhelming urge to sanitize my hands." As they ventured deeper into the woods surrounding the mall, the atmosphere shifted. The air grew heavy, thick with the scent of decaying leaves and damp earth. The trees seemed to press in on them, their branches gnarled and twisted like skeletal fingers. An unsettling silence descended, broken only by the occasional rustle in the undergrowth. The forest felt wrong. Not just wild, but malevolent, as if it remembered them, catalogued their presence, and found them wanting. Noah, ever the pragmatist, attributed it to his overactive imagination. But even he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. They found a dilapidated campground further into the woods, a clearing dotted with overgrown fire pits and decaying picnic tables. The signage was weathered and vandalized, but Ava managed to make out the faint outline of a name. "Okay, so it looks like this place used to be called Camp Hemlock," she announced, pointing to the sign. But underneath, someone had scratched out Hemlock and replaced it with something else. She squinted. "Welcome to camp, something." The last word was illegible, obscured by layers of moss and graffiti. As they began setting up camp, their phones started acting strangely. GPS signals flickered in and out of existence, and the time displayed on their screens jumped erratically. Attempts to make calls resulted in static and dropped connections. "Great," Noah muttered, fiddling with his phone. "No signal. Just like every other time we go on one of Ava's paranormal adventures." Mara, who had been unusually quiet, gasped, pointing to a massive oak tree near the edge of the clearing. "Look." Carved into the bark, barely visible beneath a layer of moss, were the initials MR. Her initials. That's impossible," she stammered, her eyes wide with fear. "I've never been here before." Ava examined the carving. The letters were old, weathered, but clearly defined. "Maybe someone with the same initials?" she suggested, trying to sound reassuring. But Mara shook her head, her voice trembling. "No. It's my handwriting. I used to carve my initials into everything when I was a kid." That night, as they sat around a crackling campfire, the disturbances began. First, the fire flared up suddenly without warning, sending a shower of sparks into the night sky. Noah, who was tending to the flames, recoiled in surprise. "Static electricity?" he suggested, trying to rationalize the event. Then came the sound of giggling. High-pitched, childish laughter that echoed through the woods, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. They scanned the surrounding trees, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, but found nothing. "Probably just kids from town," Noah said, his voice strained. "Playing a prank." But the laughter didn't sound like a prank. It was chilling, ethereal, tinged with a hint of malice. The final and most unsettling event occurred while they slept. In the morning, they awoke to find that the zippers on their tents had been unzipped from the outside, all the way down. Okay, this isn't funny anymore, Noah declared, his face pale. Someone's messing with us. Ava, however, seemed strangely invigorated. This is amazing. This is exactly the kind of activity we were hoping for, she exclaimed, her eyes gleaming with excitement. It's like this place is trying to tell us something. While exploring the campground, Ava stumbled upon a dilapidated ranger station. Inside, amidst the debris and decay, she found an old leather-bound journal. The pages were yellowed and brittle, but the handwriting was still legible. It was the journal of a former park ranger, detailing the history of the campground and the strange occurrences that had plagued it over the years. One entry in particular caught Ava's attention. It spoke of a ghostly girl named Lila, who appeared at Site 7 each year on the anniversary of her death. According to the legend, Lila lost her face in the fire. Driven by the ranger's journal, they set out to find Site 7. The trail was overgrown and difficult to follow, but eventually they came across a series of strange footprints in the mud. The prints were small, almost childlike, and led directly into an overgrown clearing. In the center of the clearing was a collapsed campfire pit, long since abandoned. The ashes were cold, but fresh footprints surrounded it. A figure crouched beside the pit. A small, slender figure shrouded in shadows. "Hello," Ava called out cautiously, raising her camera. "Are you all right?" The figure didn't respond. It remained crouched by the pit, murmuring to itself. The voice was faint, almost a whisper, but Ava could make out the words. "Where did I go?" the figure repeated over and over again. "Where did I go?" As Ava moved closer, she could see that the figure was a young girl. But her face was obscured by shadows as if it had been burned away. "Lila?" Ava asked, her voice trembling. The girl slowly raised her head. And then she spoke. But the voice that came out of her mouth was Ava's own. "Lila?" the girl repeated, perfectly mimicking Ava's tone. "Am I Lila?" Then the whole forest began repeating Ava's name. A chorus of voices, whispers, and shouts echoing through the trees, growing louder and more insistent with each passing second. "Ava, Ava, Ava." Panic seized them. The air crackled with an unnatural energy, and the trees seemed to sway and writhe around them. Suddenly, Noah screamed. A blood-curdling scream that was abruptly cut short. Ava whirled around, but Noah was gone. Vanished into the trees. "Noah!" she screamed, her voice cracking. "Noah!" Only silence answered her. Mara collapsed to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. "It's my fault," she choked out. "It's all my fault." Ava knelt beside her, trying to comfort her. "What do you mean, Mara? What's going on?" Mara took a deep, shuddering breath. I camped here as a child," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. "I was with Lila the night she disappeared, but I never told anyone." Back at the campsite, Ava, adrenaline coursing through her veins, frantically reviewed the footage from her head-mounted camera. She rewound to the beginning of their trek, desperate to find any clue, any explanation for what had happened. But as she watched the night vision footage, a chilling realization washed over her. There were only 2 tents in frame, not 3. She rewound again, focusing on Mara. But Mara wasn't there. Not in the frame, not in the background, not anywhere. Ava and Noah had been talking to something wearing Mara's shape. Something that looked like Mara, sounded like Mara, but wasn't Mara. Terror clawed at her throat. She raced back to Site 7, her heart pounding in her chest. The forest seemed to mock her with its silence, its shadows dancing in the moonlight. She reached the fire pit and began digging, her hands tearing at the loose earth. And then she found it. A few small bones. Fragments of bones. Old brittle bones. She dug faster, her mind reeling. And then she unearthed a skull. A small, child-sized skull. This was Mara. The real Mara. Her decades-old remains buried beneath the fire pit. As she stared at the skull, a transformation began. The thing that had been Mara started to disintegrate, its form flickering and distorting. The skin peeled away, revealing something beneath. Lila. Her burned face was no longer obscured by shadows. It was contorted, hollow, a grotesque mask of pain and rage. Ava fled, stumbling through the woods, the image of Lila's face seared into her memory. She didn't stop running until she reached the edge of the forest, until she could see the lights of the town in the distance. She uploaded the footage to her YouTube channel, desperate to share her story, desperate to warn others. She titled it, "The Ghost That Haunts Forgotten Campgrounds." The video went viral. Millions of people watched in horror as Ava and Noah explored the abandoned campground, as they encountered the ghostly figure of Lila, as Noah vanished into the darkness. Viewers scrutinized every frame of the footage, poring over the details, searching for clues. And then they started noticing something strange. In several shots of Ava's tent, particularly those taken at night, viewers claimed to see a third person inside. A person lurking in the shadows, their face obscured, but their eyes were clearly visible. And they were smiling. The comments section exploded with theories and speculation. Some believed it was the ghost of Lila, seeking revenge. Others thought it was something far more sinister, a malevolent entity that had been drawn to the campground by Ava's presence. Ava never uploaded another video. She disappeared from the internet, leaving behind only the haunting footage and the chilling question: who was the third person in the tent? And what did they want? But the real question is this: did Ava leave the internet at her own will? Or did Lila take her by force? Let us know in the comments section. Would you have gone back to Site 7 to try and find clues? Or would you have just got out of there as fast as you could?
Ready for spine-chilling tales that will haunt your thoughts? Subscribe to Forgotten Storyteller for eerie narrations, unsettling mysteries, and haunting stories you won't forget. Hit the bell icon so you never miss a story, because some stories refuse to stay buried. Join us, if you dare.